So I'm going to say a few things that that I've said around here recently and that I've heard around here recently, but I want people beyond this room to hear some of this. With Geshe-la's disappearance, there's a lot of difficult situation for us to deal with, and sometimes people with grief go through a lot of different emotions, and we don't all handle it the same way. We don't all show it on the outside the same way. Sometimes people may fall into deep sorrow and sadness, and sometimes people may have anger coming up, surprising even to themselves, and acting out in situations in different ways. And at one of the stand-up meetings, we were advised to not take it personal if somebody's acting out, because we know they're suffering, and to be kind to each other, and that not taking it personal is a kindness. And I've really been thinking about this in a much broader way than this situation. That in samsara, ordinary sentient beings are suffering beings. I would say that they're mutually inclusive. And you may see people that you don't recognize their suffering. They may be healthy and seem happy at the moment, and it's hard to remember that. But suffering is the first of the Four Noble Truths, and it's a very important thing to recognize. There's a verse in the Dhammapada that says, I've looked at several translations. It says, there are those who do not know that all of us here are perishing. Those who know this end all quarrels. I would think that applies not just to the suffering of death, knowing that we're perishing, but just when we can recognize each other's suffering, it goes a long ways towards ending quarreling. It can, if we are if we are moving our minds in that direction. And I just think it's so important to be able to recognize other people's suffering and to recognize our own. When I say that people are acting out, someone may be acting in a way that's rude or a way that we don't understand, and to try to come up with a response of not taking it personal and being kind. But we are also suffering, and we can be the ones that are acting out. And to recognize that with ourselves. And we are trying to overcome our afflictions and stuff. But things come up, and we deal with them, and then we move on. I've been going through a lot of different emotions just myself with Geshe-la's disappearance, and I can really see how the Buddhist worldview has helped me with that. It helped me a lot when my mother was dying also. I saw her go through a lot of suffering, and I just knew that this is what happens. People die. It's a lot different when you have someone who disappears and you don't know where they might be. But samsara is uncertain. I remember Venerable saying that we're all free-falling. We're all free-falling. We're clinging to stuff, and we're still just free-falling. There's no certainty in samsara. I was thinking of that a lot about that when Venerable Rinchen was doing her BBC the other day. Yeah, no matter what we have going on, there's the uncertainty of samsara. And so I think about the lessons that we learn from certain situations and taking them into our everyday life with us. having them strengthen our practice so that we have our practice with us every day. And our practice will flourish a lot if we can look at everybody and see them with kindness, recognize that they're suffering, that they're doing their best. And that's really how this community has been treating each other recently. I think we are always trying to do that, but I think we all learned a big lesson about that because we were all, well, we've gone through a few things all at once together, but to go through, I think this most difficult last thing we've been going through with Geshe-la's disappearance, I've been seeing people be very kind to each other, very patient with each other. And I want to invite all the people that see this BBC, to just remember in your practice how important kindness is, not just in big situations. I read a book this summer, Irina's Children, about a Polish woman who was a social worker in Warsaw in the 1930s, and then there was the Nazi invasion. And she risked her life, it seems like several times a day, to get herself into the ghetto and smuggle people out or smuggle goods into the people, and helped be part of a network that saved a lot of people's lives. But before that horrendous invasion happened, she was doing a social worker's job of trying to get people that needed resources lined up with the resources they need. She was doing virtuous things before there was a disaster. It wasn't just the war. It was the war that made her famous and made her really just, dive into it. But people can be doing a lot of, our kindness is important. We can be doing a lot for people just by being kind in mundane situations. It doesn't have to be disasters for that to come up. And we need to really bring that recognition into our lives. We're told, I think it's Tisha who said every time he saw someone, "This is my mother." If every time I met somebody or saw somebody or dealt with somebody, I thought, this person has been my mother and I will become fully awakened for their benefit. If I could remember to think that way every time I met someone, the path would be quickly I would quickly get to the end of the path.